Okay, I got to stop trying to look up here all the time, but rather look at you. So like I said, this is a slideshow. This isn't the sort of thing you're used to from these live streams, because generally there's lots of conversation, or there's a lot of live solving. We're not going to do a ton of live solving today. In fact, sort of the opposite is going to happen. I'm going to spoil a bunch of puzzles. So there are times when, if you really are keen on solving puzzles, you're going to have to look away. And I hope you accept that, because we have a lot of information that I want to cover. This is a talk for general audiences. But I think the people who tend to come to these streams are accustomed to puzzles. And even you are going to hear some information that I think is going to be new to you and maybe surprising and hopefully interesting. Whoops. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Okay, I can do this. This title, the talk is titled 13 or More Ways of Looking at a Snake Egg. And that's a reference not to the fact that I counted the number of ways of looking at a snake egg and came up with more than 13. Otherwise, a pretty silly title, but it is a reference to a poem by Wallace Stevens called 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. I suggest you check it out. I'm not going to read it to you now. I'm not Simon. I'm not Simon Anthony. I'm not a reader of poems. So, like I said, we're going to have some spoilers here. I also want to say, as I said, general audiences, if there's anything that's unclear, you can always drop questions into the chat, and I can try to clarify things. But the idea is that I'm not going to overwhelm you with terminology, and I'm not going to assume you know a lot of terminology. We're going to start by asking ourselves, what the topic of snake eggs. We're going to start by asking ourselves what actually defines a snake. That looks okay, yeah. Here are 3 snakes, and I can give you a verbal definition of what a snake is, but essentially it's a 1-cell wide path that's walking through a grid, or slithering through a grid, I suppose. So these are 3 valid snakes, and I'm going to define what a good snake is by eliminating the non-snakes. For example, this is a snake. This is a naughty snake, because the one end of the snake is touching the rest of the snake at one point, so that's not allowed. This is a snake. We saw it on the first slide. This is not a snake, because in fact this snake is not touching itself at an edge. It's only touching itself at a corner. Yes, and that makes it 2 snakes and not 1. This is also not a snake, because the snake can't branch off into 2 directions. That's called branching. Branching is illegal, and also, just from a gut feeling, you can say that doesn't look like a snake anymore. This is also not a snake. Snakes are not allowed to eat a rodent. They're not allowed to become pregnant. A snake cannot cover a 2x2 area of the grid like this. So that's no longer a snake either. That's something else. It's a 2x2 area with 2 snakes running into it. This is a snake. It's also from the first slide. This is not a snake. This is a loop. A snake has to have a head and a tail. In other words, a snake has to have 2 ends. But loops are going to become important later. We're going to be looking at loop-shaped things. Okay. You liked my rhyme? I'm glad you caught that. Okay, and so here, this is a nest of snakes. Yeah, there are 7 snakes on a 7x7 grid, each one of the same length. I'm just putting them there just to show you that even though a snake cannot touch itself, it can touch other snakes. And we're also going to see situations where snakes overlap each other. A snake can't overlap itself, but it can overlap other snakes in certain circumstances, assuming you have more than 1 snake in the grid. Snake nests are a very common are a very common device in pencil puzzles. Here is an example puzzle which I'm going to talk about for a brief moment. And Tolkat, would you mind pinning a link? The source here is gmpuzzles.com, a site which I highly recommend. I think it's a terrific place to visit high-quality puzzles. Tolkat, do you want to pin, or have you already done it? Can you pin the GM Puzzles link? There you go. Yeah, so that's, if anyone's interested, I would highly recommend visiting GM Puzzles. Anyway, what is this? On the left side is a puzzle. I'm not going to go into it too much, and on the right side is the solution to the puzzle. If you look on the right side, it's an example of a snake. Right? It's got a head and a tail. In this case, the head and the tail are marked by circles. And that's something that that you frequently see, that the head and the tail of the snake will be given, and you have to draw the rest of the snake. And you have to draw it, in this particular case, according to certain constraints. You've got letters around the grid, L, N, U, and V. I'm not going to say what those mean right now, but those are the constraints on the puzzle. So just let's leave that aside for a moment. But you see a snake in gray. It's a valid snake. It doesn't touch itself at an edge anywhere. It doesn't touch itself at a corner either. But we'll get to that in a moment. So there are really two big categories of snake-based puzzles. There are ones where the snake may not touch itself at a corner. I'll tell you exactly what that means in a moment. Or there are another category of snake-based puzzles is where a snake can touch itself at a corner. So this snake we've already seen. It's a snake that doesn't touch itself at a corner. And here suddenly I've changed a little bit, and it is touching itself at corners. In fact, at 3 different spots, the snake is touching itself at a corner. Down here in box 5 of the grid, and I've marked them all with dots, but you can see that. Okay, so now we know what a snake is, I would say. Are there any questions about snakes? Otherwise, take just a second here. Puinsky, that's a nice name. Uroboroi is a plural of Uroboros, and Uroboros is a snake that bites itself in the tail. That's what I meant by the word loop. Yeah, that's an Uroboros, I guess. Okay. Yes, Tolkat, snakes are very versatile. So the next question is, what is a snake egg? Okay, here's the snake I just had. A snake egg is defined, in our case, as the sort of negative space that is not occupied by the snake. So here, these areas that are highlighted in blue are the snake eggs. Why they're called eggs is anybody's guess. As far as I'm concerned, the 1 cell size egg is the only one that really looks like an egg to me, but even then it's a square egg. Nobody likes a square egg. And snake eggs are described in terms of their size. So the snake egg pattern that we just had has 2 size 1 eggs, 1 size 4 egg, it's got 4 cells in it, 1 size 15 egg, and 1 size 19 egg. Okay? Good. But when we talk about snake egg patterns, a classic snake egg pattern is one with eggs of size 1 through n, where, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in this case, where n is 1 smaller than the size of the grid. So again, here's an example puzzle, also by Serkan Yürekli, but I don't think I mentioned his name before. So this puzzle is by Serkan Yürekli. This one is also by, this is an example puzzle, I should say, by Serkan, and on the left is the puzzle, on the right is the solution. When we talk about snake egg patterns from now on, we're always going to be talking about ones where the size of the grid is n plus 1, and the eggs are of size 1 through n. I want to go ahead and look at this puzzle a little more closely to get a sort of feel for the logic of snakes. This is not too difficult. I'm not going to give you a link now because I don't want you to get distracted. But imagine that I'm solving this puzzle. Just transition over here. You should be able to see, yeah. This is the puzzle. And all you're given is the head and the tail of the snake. And you're given a 2. And the 2 just tells you the egg of size 2 has to use that square right there. Okay, so we can begin by coloring the snake. The idea is to, I'll make it gray because that's how the example looks. But we know that this cell is not part of the snake. This is part of the egg. Or part of the 2 egg, to be specific. Now, because this is one of the cells of the egg can either go like this, or like, whoops, like that, or, hey, or like this. And that's where I'm going to start, is by looking at those 3 orientations. 2 of them can be eliminated, and I'll explain why. The egg can't be in this position, and it can't be in this position. And the reason is because I have this dead end here at the as soon as I draw an egg, I'm going to have to surround it by snake, right? Otherwise, it's not a real. Otherwise, it's not a real egg. It's an egg that starts leaking. So, and if I've surrounded it like this, you'll notice that I've got this piece of snake here. That's a dead end. I can't. If I start drawing the snake from the head to here, I can't get out of this corner again. Okay, and I'm never going to reach the tail of the snake. Okay, the same thing is true with this orientation of the egg. So from that, I can conclude my first step in this puzzle. Well, my second step after I've colored some things. My first step is to recognize that this must be the size of the this must be the position of the snake of the size 2 egg, and I immediately surround it by snake. And now the snake that starts at the head, this is the second cell of the snake. It's going to have to go to here, and by doing so, it connects to these 2 cells. It can't use these 2 cells anymore. Those 2 are going to be egg cells. We don't know what size egg they're going to touch, but while we're at it, let's color these cells green as well, because the snake isn't going to come down here. It's not going to cut over to here, because this is the head, right? If I put another snake cell here, the head is no longer the head. Okay, so the snake needs to continue. It needs to take this square, and it, whoops, is it doing it? It needs to take this square, and it needs to take this square as well. It can't take this square, otherwise the snake has closed prematurely, and we have this giant egg over here. Okay, so we can't take that cell. Now the snake continues to grow, and now I've got an egg here that's at least of size 5. I'm sorry, I lied. It's at least of size 3. Blah. Okay, and it can't be more than size 5, by the way. So that rescues me. So let's look at some of these other cells that are not used yet and determine and recognize that, for example, these 3 cells all can't be part of snakes, of the snake. And let me tell you why, because if I try to, let's suppose this is a snake cell. This one, we've already talked about dead ends. That's not going to be a snake cell. But let's suppose this is a snake cell. I'm going to have to come in from below and exit again from to the right. Yeah. And now I'm stuck, right? Because this is obviously not the head or tail of the snake. It would have to continue, and I've produced a 2x2 area of snake, and that's illegal. So I can conclude from that this is definitely snake. It's definitely egg. This one is now a dead end, so that must also be egg. And lo and behold, I've got an egg of size 5, and because it's a 6x6 grid, that egg can't get any bigger, and it's going to be surrounded by snake. And that section of snake has to continue, right? And the only way it can continue at this end is to take this cell. The only way it can continue at this end is to take this cell. Can't take this cell. This might be the size 1 egg. We'll see about that, but this is definitely going to continue. These two cells are not used. Now this can't be snake because it'd be a dead end. And lo and behold, I have a size 4 egg. Oh wait, I have to exit. I didn't do that right. This is my size 4 egg. All of these cells, I think you'll agree, can't be in the snake. And this snake has to continue out from the tail end to meet the head end eventually. These are all, of course, snake cells. And let me go ahead and just write a 4 in here, and write 5s in here, and finish off my 2. I should do that at the beginning just to make it easier, but there you go. Now, these two eggs can't connect with each other, otherwise you have a size 8 egg. We're going to meet size 8 eggs later, but right now we can't have any. So this is going to have to be snake, and I have to connect these two. The only way to connect them is like this. And now I've got a size 1 egg here, and a size 3 egg here, and this puzzle is solved. Okay. Well, that wasn't too bad, right? Okay, I'm going back to the slideshow. So that was the example puzzle from one of Serkan's snake egg puzzles. I'm in the wrong place. Here we go. So you see that solution that we just created. Are there any questions at this point? GG. Thanks, Carl Morton. Okay, I'll pick it up. If any questions come up, then just pop them in the chat, but I think we're okay. Please don't be shy about asking questions. That's actually the most important thing I should be saying. Don't want to assume any knowledge. Okay, now in the Sudoku community, we like 9x9 grids. We do like grids of other size, but this is sort of the classic sort of layout that you're used to. And so if you have a 9x9 grid, the eggs are going to be, of size 1 through 8. I've colored them in different colors. Those people who have difficulty seeing color, I have to apologize in advance, because some of these slides, you're basically going to have to be relying on context in order to understand what I'm saying, and it's not a big deal. It won't be. Anyway, so the size 1 egg is red, the size 2 egg is orange, size 3, size 4, size 5. Obviously the white space in this image is not a snake. It's not a snake for a number of ways, but these are just examples of eggs of size 1 through 8. And here is a valid snake egg puzzle, or a snake egg pattern, I should say, in a 9x9 grid. The eggs are each labeled by their size. So at the bottom right is a size 7 egg. There's a size 3 egg tucked in to its left. A size 8 egg sort of that grabs the middle of the grid. The size 1 egg next to it. And you'll see, I mean, this is a little bit different from what we've seen before. You know, I've been showing you the grids where the snake basically takes up its cells. The advantage of this particular diagram is that you can see the snake as a kind of line, but it's a little bit harder to see the delineation of the eggs. But I'm going to be switching back and forth between this kind of image and the types of images you've been seeing before, and that's because these images are coming from a program that my brother-in-law made for me. I'll talk about that in a moment. But you're going to see these kinds, and you're going to see the other kind. Anyway, we have names for these eggs. You don't have to remember all of these names, but they are a bit intuitive. The 2-cell sized egg is called a domino. A lot of people are familiar with dominoes as a term. But there's a word for every one of them, and some of them are quite amusing. A 1-cell egg is called a monomino. The 2-cell domino, 3 cells, is a triomino, sometimes tromino. 4-cell egg is a tetromino. 5 pentomino, 6 hexomino, 7 heptomino, and 8 octomino. I clipped this image. This is not actually text. This is a screenshot of my Word with Microsoft Word to show you that Microsoft Word does not recognize the words octomino, tetromino, triomino, and monomino. Those are inventions of the puzzling community, I would say. But the words, for some reason, pentomino, hexomino, and heptomino are totally okay with Microsoft Word. I don't know what, yeah, the Muppet song, thank you. Monomino. Okay, so these terms are going to come up. especially the pentomino. We're going to talk about those separately because they are a type of the 5-cell eggs are a very common theme in puzzling. Okay, so if the grid is 9 by 9 and contains 8 eggs of size 1 through 8 once each, how long is the snake? Now this we can already conclude, because if a 9 by 9 grid, the numbers 1 through 8, when you add them up together, you get 36. There are 36 egg cells in a 9 by 9 grid. And so if the grid is always either egg, every cell is either egg or snake, anything that's not in those eggs must be snake. And so the snake is always 45 cells long. If you try to, now I want to do a little bit of an experiment here. We want to try and draw a snake egg pattern by hand, okay? And if I just try sort of naively to start with the pattern that I had, whoops, I don't want to do that. I want colors here. Okay. If I try to draw the pattern that I had by hand and say, and just, let's make these red. My snake will be red today. I've now created an egg of size 6, yeah? And it's a little bit arbitrary here, but at this point, I'm gonna say this is the head of the snake. I'll put a circle just to clarify that. This can't be the tail of the snake because I only have 1 egg, or let's say I have 2 eggs, but one of them is huge. I have to continue this snake, and it's gonna have to continue here. And now it can't turn right, but it can go this way or this way. Let's just go, let's say it goes this way because I'm worried about the snake, about the eggs getting too big. If I now maybe continue out to here, I've created a size 8 egg, which is so far so good. I've got a size 6 and a size 8, and now I'm forced to make a size 1 egg here, but as I run across here, I've made a size 5 egg, right to the right of the current tail of I've got a size 5 egg. Still, so far so good. I've got 6, 8, 1, and 5, and now I've broken it, because the only way this snake can continue is by going here, and I've got 2 eggs of the same size, and I still don't have a 2, a 4, a 3, and a 7. 2, 3, 4, 7. Yeah, problems. Okay. And I don't have a size 3 egg. Did I already say that? I don't know. I lost track. Anyway, it's very frustrating. So let's go back and try something else. I'm going to make sure that I have, whoops, my hands are actually shaking. All right. Let's make sure that I have I want to start by just putting an egg of size 1 in here. No, yeah, like this. And now I don't want to make a size 1 egg here, so I'm going to sort of try to encapsulate the next. I want to keep things under control and not make the egg too big. And now I have to move down. I can continue making my snake. Let's go the other direction now. Hey, what am I supposed to do? Okay, here we go. 7. Okay, I can draw my snake here. This is all forced. I can't deviate from this path. And I have to pinch this off, because if I try going any further up, you'll see I'm making 1 egg that's just gigantic. I think I've kind of illustrated how difficult it is to try to freehand draw a snake. I'm being very naive, of course, but it's just to clarify this. Okay, yeah. So let's go away from this particular lineup and try a different tack. Okay, so I have a feeling that just trying to draw freehand from nothing isn't going to work. Let's try by placing 1 egg, and let's make this egg. It's a hexamino, right? A size 6 egg, and let's place it and then try to do some logic around how it would look. Trying to draw a snake egg pattern around it. Okay. So I'm arbitrarily placing it right here in the middle of the grid. In the middle, I'm just putting in the middle because I'm thinking, gosh, that looks really promising. Looks like a good spot to try to draw a snake egg. And the immediate first thing to do, right, as I'm trying to derive a snake from this situation, is to surround the egg by snake cells. And this time the snake is green. I think green is a pretty good contrast to orange. I can make it blue, but I'm used to green, okay? So now we have to think, the next step I think would be to think about where the head and the tail can be. And conversely, where the head and the tail can be, we can also ask where the head and the tail cannot be, all right? Let's imagine that none of these three cells are, I'm being very selective about my logic here, and I don't want to be naive anymore. Let's suppose that none of these cells are the head or tail of the snake. We have to continue from all of them, okay? So they have to connect to each other, and this one can continue connecting here, this one can continue connecting here, or it can break off. But notice that if I break it off here, then this becomes the head of the snake, right? I haven't determined where the head is yet. But one way or the other, what's happening here is I've left behind a whole bunch of cells here which can't be part of the snake. Okay? If I try to pull around here, well, I guess I could kind of do something like this, and then this has to kind of let me do something else. Let me just fiddle around with it a little bit. Let's connect these two, and now I've got an even bigger problem. But I've created a snake. It's going to have to take all of these cells, and it's just huge. So let me back up a little bit and put this in. I'm going to have to shut the snake off here at this point. But I can't come in here anymore without creating a dead end. This is to continue. The best I can do is to close this and keep this under control. This is now a size 8 egg, right? This is already the head of the snake, and this end of the snake is going to have to connect to this head. So I can still do that. That's okay. I can't take this cell, but this is now my size 1 egg, size 8, my size 6 egg, and so on. And I'm kind of fiddling around here. I think my point is starting to be made for me, which is that it's very difficult to kind of make this work. Let's see. I want to just get to a point where I'm failing. This piece of snake is going to have to continue up. It can't go this way. It can't, and it's going to be coming from here probably. It's going to turn right. I can't make this the head of the snake. Otherwise, I've got a size 6 egg on this side. Okay, sorry, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the point is, you're getting tripped up, and the real point of it is that if I come back to here, I'm going to back up and say, it turns out, if you do an exhaustive computer search, the spot where you actually placed that egg initially is impossible. There's no snake egg pattern where the hexamino of that type is in that particular position. Okay. In fact, as it turns out, that hexamino can be part of a snake egg pattern, but it can only be situated in 3 different places in the grid. It can be here. That's a nice snake egg. That's a valid snake egg pattern. It can be here, and it can be here. Those are the 3 places. And in each one of those places, there's exactly one snake that can be drawn, that surrounds that hexamino. But we've got these 3 examples. That hexamino is symmetrical, right? So in addition to those 3 options, I can turn that hexamino around, rotate it 180 degrees, and I get 3 more solutions. And these are all the same as the previous 3, but I've just rotated the grid 180 degrees. So there are basically 6 different ways to use that hexamino, and the way that we were trying to do That ain't one of them, and it never will be. Okay? And you don't know that, the point is, you don't know that until you've fiddled around with it for a while. Okay. I'm going to drink a glass of water and take a pause here, because I'm actually making pretty good time. It's been half an hour. Are there any questions? Tallcat says, that's quite nuts. It is nuts. So trial and error is not a great way to create a snake egg, and that is a real drawback for creating puzzles, and I think I should mention that. Like, the way that we're accustomed to making puzzles is we think of a way to start solving the puzzle. Like when you set, you think about how it's going to get solved. With and we have examples of constraints, puzzle constraints that we have examples of puzzle constraints that are kind of prohibitive to that. The one we think of is anti-knight. Don't worry about what that means, but a lot of types of constraints, they don't lend themselves well to starting from scratch with that constraint. Rather, for a snake egg puzzle, I think the most promising way to start is to actually have a snake egg pattern in mind already and to build your puzzle around it. Unless you're really familiar with snake eggs, and as you'll soon find, I've spent hours and hours with them. I am not familiar with them. I'm really not. I'm more familiar with them than the average person. Okay. So these were the snake eggs with hexamenos in them. I did take my drink of water, didn't I? I can't tell. So drawing a freehand snake egg pattern is difficult. You'd be forgiven if you stopped trying after about 10 minutes of concentrated effort. Given how many restrictions there are on snakes, and given that the eggs have to be of 8 specific different sizes, the question becomes how many snake egg patterns are possible on a 9x9 grid. And as it turns out, there are 133,744 ways of making a snake egg pattern. You can sit with that for a moment. That's a lot. Now, in fairness, a snake egg pattern does not have any symmetries in it. Okay? So the nice thing is that if you do discover a snake egg pattern, a new one, then you've immediately discovered 7 more. Because you can take the one you've already have. Here's my hand. You can take the one you already have, you can flip it, or you can rotate it 90 degrees, or 90 degrees clockwise, or 180 degrees, and you have a total of 8 different snake. So maybe it is worth it. Maybe try making a snake egg pattern from scratch, and you've immediately got 8 snake egg patterns, and then you've got 133,736 more to go. Okay? So this is where computers come in. Right, I should say, so I should mention the word canonical. Out of those 133 something odd puzzles, if you divide that number by 8, there are 16,718 canonical ways of drawing a snake egg pattern. And that's a number that, people will know. By canonical, I mean non-trivially different. Yeah. So trivial means I can just flip it, or I can rotate it. That's very trivial. It's not necessarily trivial inside your head, but it's a trivial concept. At this point, I want to thank my brother-in-law. This is Brian Murtick. He's the one who created an algorithm for me. I mean, he wasn't the first to create this algorithm, but he created an algorithm to count the number of snakes that you can build in a 9x9 grid. But he went much, much further. He created a database of them for me, without which I would not be able to give this talk, because the database has categorized these snakes in a way that I can search. And I did a lot of coding and scripting myself to find interesting patterns, but I really owe a tremendous debt to him, because to put it mildly, the algorithm itself would have taken me forever, just to put it mildly. I also want to thank at this point Serkan Yürekli, I want to consider him a friend, but I haven't ever talked to him. He's the person who coined the term snake egg for these types of puzzles and has made a ton of them, has made a ton of snake egg puzzles and various other, he's a multi-talented setter. I've never had the pleasure of speaking to him, but many people in this community are familiar with the name Serkan Yürekli. Not sure where the accent, Yürekli or Yürekli. I didn't get a chance to ask him how his name is pronounced, but I know the first name is Serkan. Okay, so thank you, Serkan. Thank you, Brian. So that's my introduction. I think we understand snake eggs and we understand the difficulty of trying to build one. To become more familiar with them, I want to talk about how we can categorize or classify snake egg patterns. And I want to frame that as a slightly weirder question. What is the most interesting snake egg pattern? Or conversely, what is the most boring one? Okay, one category of snake eggs, one way to categorize, there is not a way to categorize them, there are many ways. One way to categorize them is to ask where are the head and the tail of the snake. Now they can be as far apart as you want. They can be on the opposite corners of the grid, and here, go ahead and take a moment to count them. You've got a size 1 egg at the bottom of box 8. You got a size 2 egg in box 3 of the grid, a size 4 egg in box 2, a size 6 egg in box 1 bleeding into box 2, a size 5 egg in box 4, and then the size 8 egg kind of spreading itself across the 5th, 8th, and 9th box. I'm kind of familiarizing you with box numbers because they might be important later. And then the size 7 egg is in box 6, and the size 3 egg is in box 7. Okay, you can validate that. The snake eggs the snake ends, the head and the tail, can also be right next to each other, such as in this case. And I'm not going to count through all of the eggs again. There was a snake egg Patreon pack, yes, but Yürekli. Yeah, the I is short. That's right. Thank you. Yeah, Yürekli, but not an accent on the kli. Yürekli or Yürekli. I'm not going to embarrass myself any further. But yes, I would need to be careful about pronunciation. Anyway, so the head and the tail can be as close together as you want. They can't be right next to each other, obviously, because then you're creating a loop. But this is as close as they get to each other. They can also be one cell apart. Like I could have put instead of the tail being in row 6, column 6, they could be in row 5, column 5, and they would be just seeing each other across a little gap. So that's as close as they can get to each other, basically. What you can't do is try to put the head and tail an odd number of steps apart. And we already know that logically, I think, by considering how long the snake is. Yeah. Suppose that you think of the grid as being on a checkerboard. And I'll explain this in a moment. I've just checkerboarded the grid. And arbitrarily, I'm going to start drawing a snake, let's say is orange. I'm going to start here on this white cell. This is the head of the snake. And let's go ahead and put a circle on it for completeness sake. And I'm going to start drawing the snake. Doesn't really matter right now. I'm not too concerned about my egg sizes, but there's a kind of a beginning of a snake. It's not a snake egg pattern, it's already illegal, but you'll notice that the first cell of the snake, we can call it cell number 1, is on a white or unshaded cell. Cell number 2 is on a gray cell. 3 is white, 4 is gray, 5 is white, 6 is gray, 7 is white, 8 is gray. The odd numbered cells are always on white cells, and the even numbered cells are always on gray cells. So the 45th cell, in other words, the tail of the snake, is guaranteed to be on a white cell. And the same is true if I start here. Yeah, you can't really see that, but yeah, that's the head. This tail is also going to be on gray. Okay. So, whoops, that was great. Hey, go away. All right, right. That's my theory. So here's the snake we saw earlier, and here it is on a checkerboard grid. So that's kind of important. It's also important sometimes for logic puzzles involving snakes, snake egg patterns. And if you don't think about that, if you don't think about the head and tail always being on the same color, those types of puzzles can be quite vicious. All right. So other than that restriction, the snake head and tail can be anywhere as long as they're on the same checkerboard color, except for two situations. The one on the left here, the snake head is in row 1, column 1. The tail is in row 2, column 2. The head cannot escape from around the tail. The best you can do is make a snake that's 3 cells long, and then you've got an egg that's 78 cells large. That's impossible. That's pretty clear. But the one on the right is also impossible. In other words, if you can't see it, row 2, column 2, and row 4, column 4 are the head and tail. But this turns out to be impossible. This is one where you'd have to fiddle with it for a while to recognize that it doesn't work. If you can see that at a glance, good for you. I couldn't. I fiddled around with it for a while, although to verify that it doesn't work, I had to use Brian's database. Okay. Another way so we have a category of where's the head and where's the tail. Another category of snake is how many turns does the snake make? The minimum number of turns that a snake can possibly make is 15. The maximum number it can make is 29. On the left is an example of a snake that makes 15 turns. You can go ahead and count them. Maybe we'll count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 around the 1 cell, 12, 13, 14 around the 2 egg, and then 15 is the last one. And the two heads, the head and tail, are neighboring each other. It turns out of the 16,718 snake eggs, there are 4 of them that make exactly 15 turns, and there are only 2 of them that make exactly 29 turns, right? The snake on the right side is very, very squiggly. It's as squiggly as a snake can get. And here, you can verify the sizes of these eggs. Another question, so that's the number of turns, right? I think it's very funny that it's so difficult to make very squiggly eggs, very squiggly snakes, and it's difficult to make very, very smooth snakes. I can show you a histogram of these. It's not hard to make, but in any case, the extreme ends are really uncommon. Next question, what is the pattern of turns in the snake? And this is a little nerdy. I think it's funny though. Here is a snake where I've labeled the turns. Assuming that row 2, column 3 is the head of the snake, it makes a left turn, left turn, left turn, right turn, left, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, 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 left. Okay, so what's cool about this particular snake is it makes a lot of left turns, and it makes very few right turns. And in fact, it makes the number of left turns is 9 more. There are 15 left turns than the number of right turns. There are 6 right turns, 15 left turns, and that's what Brian referred to as the turn bias. So this snake has the maximum turn bias of 9, 15 minus 6 being 9, and this is the only snake with a turn bias of 9. In the bottom I've written 1 out of 16,718. There's only one snake that has a turn bias of 9. And here is a more balanced snake. This one has as many left turns as right turns. If you count them, there are 11 left turns and 11 right turns. 1,933 snakes have as many left turns as right turns. Okay, so that's a category. By the way, it's impossible for a snake to make more than 5 turns in the same direction. If I were to turn 6 times left, the only way to do that would be you'd end up creating an egg that's much too large, right? You can kind of imagine that instead of making the left turn in the middle of the grid, suppose I make it 1 cell later and I try to go up straight here, I have to shift the whole thing around, but I can't touch the snake prematurely, but then I end up with, I end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cells, right? I can't possibly make a snake egg pattern with more than 5 turns going in the same direction in a row. And while I'm here, I should say they are left turns from this end of the snake. If I were to start at this end and count, they would be right turns. But that's why that particular might be a little bit puzzling. By the way, the head and the tail of snake, there's kind of a running joke here, like which end is the head and which end is the tail? I don't think there are any, you're not going to see any puzzles today where that matters, but it is a funny kind of question because there's no way to tell just from looking at the diagram. So 2 different snakes can exhibit the same pattern of turns, but without including the same shaped eggs. In other words, the 2 different snakes can have the same turn pattern. So here are 2 snakes with the turn pattern left, right, left, 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 right, left, right, 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 left, right, left, right, left, 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 right. Okay, I'm not going to recite those every time, but it's fun to do at least once. And you can see the 2 snakes are visually quite similar. They just, the straightaways that the snake takes are all a little different. Here's another example. This is just to see it visually a different way. Again, visually it's very obvious to see that the 2 snakes are congruent in terms of their turns. Left, right, left, 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 right, left, right. Okay, I'm sorry, I won't do it. It's the same set of turns, and you can visually tell. Another example, this is getting a little bit further away from being kind of similar looking. The straightaways are very different from each other on this one. And then one of my favorite examples is this one. Here again, the turn patterns of the 2 snakes are actually the same, but visually they look quite different. The only way you can verify the turns is by counting them and tracing them between the 2, because the one on the left starts in row 6, column 3. I've got my cursor over it. And the one on the right starts in row 1, column 2. The one on the right kind of coils inward, if I assume that's the head, and the one on the left coils outward. Yeah, but you can verify that the 2 turn patterns are the same. What does this have to do with puzzles? I don't know. Maybe you can come up with an interesting way to exploit this concept of turn congruency. I didn't come up with anything. I didn't really spend too much time on it, but maybe you're creative and can come up with something. Okay. Another category, how many of the snake cells are touching the edge of the grid? Well, the minimum that can touch the edge of the grid is 17, which is, let's see, there are a total of 34. There are 34 cells along the edge of the grid. The minimum of those is that the snake touches half of them, and the maximum it can touch is 25. So on the left is a snake egg pattern with 17 cells along the border, and on the right is a snake egg pattern with 25 cells along the border. It really is quite maximal. Trying to make one that's larger might be fun, but you will fail. So just give up now. Anyway, there are, you can see the statistics. Yeah, those are fairly seldom that you see so few cells or so many cells along the border of the snake. A similar question, how many different eggs touch the edge of the grid? The possible answers are 3, 4, 5, or 6. The snake on the top left kind of looks like a big 2, but it's supposed to represent 3. We'll look at them a little bit closer in just a moment. This is a snake with 3 eggs on its border. Okay, are touching the border. The 1 cell in the top left corner, the size 7 egg on the right, and the size 6 egg in the bottom left. Okay, all of the other snakes, all of the other eggs are tucked into the middle of the snake. They are surrounded by snake. I also marked, by the way, the points at which the snake touches itself. In this case, there are 5, and you're going to notice a pattern: 3 eggs on the border, 5 places where the snake touches itself in the middle. 4 eggs on the border, and I've got 4 spots where the snake touches itself, and I've got 4 eggs that are completely surrounded by snake. 5 eggs on the border, 3 eggs, 3 diagonal touches, 6 eggs on the border, 2 diagonal touches. Okay, so we can sit with those for a moment. I'll just go through them again. You can kind of visually appreciate 3 eggs, 4 eggs, 5 eggs, and 6 eggs. Cool. By the way, look at this pattern and just kind of imagine that you rotated it 180 degrees. It has very strong sense of symmetry, right? But it can't be perfectly symmetrical, otherwise the eggs would all be the same size. It's very close to symmetrical. And we're going to come to that topic later at the very end of this, because I think it's absolutely fascinating and, again, not necessarily useful for puzzles. Okay, so here's my little handy table. The number of eggs on the border plus the number of diagonal touches is always equal to 8. Yeah, write that down. It's helpful, maybe not for puzzles, but just to think about. So let's go through a puzzle that I created called Incremental Snake Egg. This is from the beginning of this year. And there. Sorry, can you hear me now? I screwed up. Anyway, this is the puzzle I wanted to show you. The point of this puzzle, and I don't know how much of my audio just disappeared, but the point of this puzzle is to demonstrate, for our purposes, is to demonstrate that given very little information, I can actually draw a complete snake egg pattern. So I have the head and the tail of the snake as big circles, and there are little dots on the corners of certain spots. Those dots represent places where the snake touches itself on the diagonal, and those are the only spots where the snake is allowed to touch itself diagonally. And I can actually just demonstrate to you that the snake here is actually can be drawn purely by logic. This time the snake is orange. Lucky you. This dot here means that these 3 cells have to be part of the snake, and these have to be part of eggs, make the eggs green. And now in this 2x2 area, there are really 2 ways to turn it into a touching spot. I can either do this, whoops, come back. I can either do this and have this be snake and these 2 be eggs. The snake would continue here. That's not broken yet. There's no reason why it can't be that way. And the other way to do it is come this way and have it touch this way. Whoops. Both of those, you're not looking at the, sorry, I screwed up. You're not looking at the right screen. Oh boy. Let me just transition to there. My fault. Okay, I'm going to back up a little bit on this puzzle. Waste of time. Okay, this is what we know, just from first principles. Now, the snake can either tread this path and touch itself diagonally like this, or it can tread this path and touch itself diagonally like that. And we can't figure out which one of these it's going to do, but we can figure it out in this 2x2 grid, 2x2 area, because the snake can't be doing this, right? Because then I've got a very big chunk of snake that's very chunky. So the only way, whoops, the only way that's going to work is that this part and this part are snake. And now we can resolve this one because these 2 ends, if I try to turn this into a snake, I put the snake on this end of that corner, it's broken. So these are going to connect this way, and I've already got it. My snake is already 6 cells long, 7 cells long, very promising. And the snake does have to come through this path here. Okay, now all of these are egg cells. I think you can see that. This is an egg cell. These two are egg cells. This is egg. This is not the end of the snake, so it has to cut across here. And now it's touching the head, so this is done. All of these are egg. This is egg. This is going to continue in both directions. Whoops, not necessarily here. This is going to continue in this direction. Whoops, darn it. This is snake. I mean, sorry, egg. Snake, egg, egg, snake. Nice to meet you. These two could possibly connect here, but what they can't do is they can't touch at a corner because I've already told you where all of the corner touches are. Okay, so while it's possible for these two to connect with each other, I'm actually going to be creating a big problematic space down here. And I'm sorry, let's just continue drawing this. I think it's a little bit easier to see things by looking at this end. This is egg. This is going to have to be egg as well. And I've already got a size 6 piece here. This can't be part of the snake. And already I've got a size 7 piece here. I can't make this part of the I can't make this part of an egg because then this is already size 8. Can't get any bigger, so I'd be surrounding it by snake and I'd have a dead end. So that's also snake. This is egg. Well, it's not necessarily egg, but I've got either a 7 egg or a size 8 egg. This is either snake or egg, but in any case, the snake is going to continue down this way. This is egg. Oh, sorry, snake. This is either snake or egg to connect these two together. And let's see. I was going to say the question now becomes whether this touches here or whether these two connect together, which would resolve this portion. Okay, so we'll look at these two in a moment. I think the one that I want to eliminate is this one. Like this being snake would mean, I mean, this being the head of the snake would mean that this has to avoid it and come around this way. This would come around this way. These two would have to avoid each other entirely. And now I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops. I can't undo. Sorry. I'm trying to eliminate this situation. And the way to eliminate it is to say, well, these two ends would have to kind of find each other. This one would have to come all the way around here and make a huge egg. So what's going to happen is these two are going to connect. I didn't do that very rigorously, but I'm trying to get through this a bit and demonstrate to you that I have enough information to finish this snake. I'm just not doing a great job of demonstrating that. Okay, I've got a size 3 egg here. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but size 7 so far. This is size 5. This one, these two ends can't, well, I guess they can still connect to each other, but I think what's going to happen then, you're gonna create a very large egg over here. That's much too big. This end is eventually going to come around and hug the left side of the wall, the left side of the grid, and it's going to avoid this end. And if I try to create my egg this way, I snake this way, then I've got 2 size 3 eggs. So you'll find that you have to hug the wall directly from the very beginning, and this becomes my size 2 egg. This is going to become part of the part of this growing egg. And these 2 egg ends are going to have to run in parallel for a while. If I were to close them off here, I'd have another size 5 egg. Can't do that. So this is certainly snake. Is certainly egg. The snake is going to continue. Whoops, wrong colors. There. I should have practiced this. Anyway, these are going to continue downward. The snake could close off here now, but then, yeah, if I close off the snake here, then none of these can ever be touched by the snake, and then I've got 2 size 6 eggs. Yeah. So that's also snake. Keeps getting bigger. Now I've already got a size 7 egg, so this can't be size 7. It has to be bigger again, and it can't get bigger than that. So I'm going to go ahead and hug the bottom of this snake. I'm sorry that I'm skipping a lot of steps, but you get the picture, I think, that there's a logical way to kind of close this, and I'm just doing a crappy job of keeping it logical. This snake can't touch the snake itself here, so it's going to come straight down and leave behind a size 4 egg. And these 2 ends are going to connect in such a way that I've got a size 6 egg and a size 1 egg that I haven't put in yet. So it can't come straight across. If it goes this, I've got 5 and 2. If it does this, I've got a 0 and 7. This is the only way to make 1 and 6. Okay, and so these are egg. And let's put in the numbers just to finish things off. 6, 6, and I still haven't done any Sudoku. It turns out that this puzzle is a Sudoku puzzle. I'm not going to solve the whole thing, but let's take away the numbers for a moment. The way that the puzzle works, I'll just tell you, is that the turns are incremented. That's why it's called Incremental Snake Egg. I put a 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then count back down, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, there are 18 turns, and they're all numbered. And with those numbers, you actually end up creating, with a few other constraints, this X means that these 2 digits are adding up to 10. There's the constraint that these 2 digits must be the same, the head and the tail must be the same digit. And there's the constraint of no touch, or the anti-king constraint. And that just means that this can't be a 4 by Sudoku, but it also can't be a 4 in either of these 2 cells. Anyway, that's just a set of constraints that turn this puzzle into a unique, it gives this puzzle a unique solution. We're not going to look at the puzzle any further, but I just wanted to show you that. Okay. Another way of looking at snake eggs, we're about halfway through. I'm going to take a short break if there are any questions. Any puzzles that I show you here, I'm going to sort of put links to them in the chat when the video gets released, so you'll always be able to see those. Talcat, probably what? Did you have a question? Oh, we are not. Yeah, I think we resolved that. Okay, sorry about that. Can you now? Yeah, you should now see what I want you to see. Let's look at the egg shapes themselves. Okay, some egg shapes are more common than others. Okay, so here are eight egg cells. These are the most common egg cells in the 16,718 snakes. The most common size 8 egg looks like this purple one. Obviously, there's only one kind of monomino and one kind of domino, but the 3-cell straight line is more common than the 3-cell bent tetramino, slightly. The L-shaped tetramino is the most common. The L-shaped pentamino, the L-shaped hexamino. You can kind of see a pattern here. The snake eggs seem to be trying to form, a little spoon or a little fork, if you will. That's the most friendly egg toward making a valid snake egg puzzle. So that's the most common thing to happen. However, there is no snake egg pattern that actually happens to contain these 8 cells, these 8 eggs. So some egg shapes are very, very common. Some egg shapes are a lot less common. Some of them are obviously impossible, like a 7-cell egg that encloses an unused cell is totally impossible. Some of them are less obviously impossible, and you'd have to try them out before realizing they'll never fit. So here's a collection of octominoes that no snake egg pattern will ever accommodate. That includes the 8-cell straight line. Trying to put that into a snake egg pattern, you'll very quickly see that there's nothing you can do. I like this little H here in the top left corner. It looks very appealing, but you notice that the head is going to have to be in, or one end of the snake is going to have to be in one part of the H, and the tail is going to have to be in the other part, because once you get in there, you can't get back out. And some of the other ones it's a lot less obvious why they're broken. The pentomino family, I'm just going to mention it because it's well known to people who do a lot of Japanese-style pencil puzzles. This family has 12 members, which are affectionately referred to by the letters of the alphabet that they resemble: F, I, L, N, P, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. 11 of those 12 can be found as eggs in snake egg patterns, and one of them cannot. And you can also maybe already start thinking about which one is impossible, but here's a gallery of them. Here's the F, and this doesn't look much like an F, but it certainly looks more like an F than it looks like anything else. This is I, L, N, doesn't look much like an N, but it looks more like an N than anything else. P, T, V, looks like an L, but it's a V, sort of a 45-degree rotation of a V. You kind of have to look at it like this. Oh, sorry, for you, like this. This is the W, also kind of sitting on its side. This is an X. All of these are valid snake egg patterns. And this is a Y in a valid snake egg pattern, and this is a Z. Okay. Right. The only one that's the odd man out now, I don't know, maybe you've been paying attention, but the odd man out is the U, or the odd egg out is U. And the reason that that's so sad is because in a U, we've already gotten quite familiar with this. If I want the U to be surrounded truly by snake, then it's going to have a head or tail inside the crook of the U, and as soon as it comes out, it's branching, because these two cells are definitely part of the snake, and I can't have a branch. So sad U. I'm going to turn it upside down to make it even more sad. Very sad U. Okay, that's my little joke. Okay, so let's continue with the topic of egg shapes. Here's a set of eight eggs. And I could give you these eggs, and you could form only one canonical snake egg pattern from them. That in itself might be a fun logic puzzle, but it turns out, might be the easiest way to solve it might be to just take those pieces, cut them out, and arrange them on as loose slips of paper. This could be a fun puzzle genre, but it would always involve some trial and error, and just assigning a random collection of eggs can be hazardous. Some of those collections will have no solutions, and some of them will have multiple solutions. So let's take, of those 16,718 canonical snake paths, 12,904 of them have a unique clutch or collection of eggs. So this is the example from earlier. There's only one configuration that's possible. If you don't want to see it, then close your eyes, but it looks like this. And I've drawn in the snake to make it visible, to make it easier to see. But those are the eggs. That's the only snake that's going to surround those eggs properly and be valid. But there are many situations where a clutch of eggs will have more than one solution. 1,410 of them have 2 solutions, 154 of them have 3 solutions, 81 have 4, 17 have 5, 11 have 6. There's one group that'll have 7 solutions, 2 groups that'll have 9 solutions, and if you add up these numbers, you're not going to get to 16,718, because you have to take 1410 times 2, 154 times 3, and so on. Then you'll get to that number. So don't at me. Okay. So let me just show you a few with 2 solutions. I think this is kind of cool. On the following slides, there are some patterns with identical egg shape collections, but different snake paths. So here's some shape collections with 2 canonical solutions. This one, the snake is in gray. The eggs are colored, so you can see them. And this snake use the same set of egg shapes. Okay, going back and forth between them, you can see that the 6, 7, and 8 size eggs are all in the same position. And all that's happening is the smaller of the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 size eggs are freely reassembled. And of course, the shape of the snake itself is different. Even though, it's got a lot of similarities, these two are different. Here's another one. Look at the size 8 egg and notice that all I'm doing in the second example is moving it into a different position. But other than that 8 egg, all of the other eggs, they have to turn and make space for each other in a completely different way. These two positions are radically different, but as I switch back and forth between them, take a look at the bottom third. The hexamino and the tetramino are just kind of swapping sides. They're reflecting. I think that's kind of funny. Just bouncing back and forth between these is in itself entertaining. And I'll give you one more example. And that's this one. In this one, everything runs asunder. This is one solution for this set of eggs, and here's a completely different solution. And no congruency between them. They are completely very, very different from each other. And the eggs are all in completely different positions. But these are the only two ways to arrange them, canonically, of course, with reflection and rotation disregarded. I think that's an interesting set of eggs. But you can imagine how frustrating it would be if I handed you these 8 eggs and said, "Hey, make a snake egg pattern out of this." You'd be sitting there not knowing how to begin, first of all. I wouldn't know how to begin either. This isn't a very logical puzzle genre, but I just think it's neat. And maybe you'll come up with a clutch of eggs for which there's an actual logical path toward finding the way to do it. Here's a set with 4 canonical solutions. I'm going to go through these a little bit quickly because going through them quickly lets you see them kind of animated. This is a set with 4 canonical solutions. 1, 2, 3, 4. They all look very similar. But look what's happening. The 1, 8, 2, 3, and 7 all stay in the same position. The 5 and 6, the 5 here rotates a little bit, and now it switches sides with the 6, and now it rotates again. And then the 4, in order to accommodate the movements of the 5 and the 6, is at first it's at a right side up L, and then it's an upside down L, like so. Okay. And here is the set of 9. There's one of the 2 sets of 9 canonical solutions using the same shapes. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I think it's very striking that visually these snake egg patterns look very similar. Does that list get any shorter? Which list get any shorter or longer? You're going to have to clarify a little bit which list you're talking about because I've already moved on. But this is the set of one clutch of 9 solutions for a set of egg shapes. You can study them. The 8 egg is a 2x2 square with a kind of diving board coming across, and you'll see that shape in all of them. And then I think you'll be satisfied to know that all of the shapes are the same. But the squiggling that you saw in this set of 4. That same squiggling takes place on a much grander scale in this set of 9. I didn't animate them, I'm afraid, but there it is. You can do that on your own time. Now, so I'm going to stop trying to categorize snakes, although we can continue doing so. How can I make a puzzle using snake egg as a constraint? I'm going to go through a couple of examples kind of quickly. This is a puzzle that was featured on Cracking the Cryptic in just before my Patreon pack came out in May of 2024. This was first published in January 2024, and it's on Logic Masters Germany. This is the title is Dutch Baby. I'll explain why in just a moment, but let's take a look at it and I can explain to you how it works. The eggs themselves, the cells with little clues in them are all parts of eggs, and now we've gotten in the habit of thinking of our eggs as being orange. And your task is to think of these eggs. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different eggs, and we already know that they're going to have to be separated from each other by snake, like so. And by what we're forced to reckon with is that this must be the size 1 egg. But the numbers up here, they just give you the sum of the cells inside of each respective egg. So this one, because it has a 10 in it, I know it's not going to be 8 cells long or large. It's going to be either 2, 3, or 4 cells large. It turns out that it's 2 cells large. And then this 15, it could be as many as 5 cells large because it's because the numbers 1 through 5 add to 15, and it could be as few as 2, except we've already got our 2 size egg. The 15 is going to end up being our 3 size egg, and now I'm going to surround these. I'm not doing this logically. I'm just trying to show you how this particular puzzle works. I'm going to surround all of these by snake. This ends up being the head of the snake. I'll go ahead and put that in. And already, what I want you to hang on to is that already visually, you can tell kind of how this snake is going to continue. It obviously can't stop here. This 36 is a very big number. The 37 is a very big number. This egg, whether it's size 8 or size 9, size 8 or 6 or 7, it's probably going to occupy this bottom corner. The snake is going to have to connect through here. It's going to have to come around here. I'm just roughing something in. And then it's going to have to end up down in this corner. Again, I'm not doing this super logically, but what it turns out is the 36, these are I forgot to mention, inside of eggs, no digits are allowed to repeat because they are so-called killer cages. The 36 egg turns out to be of size 8. It turns out to be of size 7. Here's the logic. Sorry, it turns out to be of size 7 or 8, and it turns out it has to take this cell in order for the snake to remain valid. But by taking this cell, it basically eliminates itself from being size 7 because you can't. It eliminates itself from being size 8. Sorry, because if I try to make this egg of size 8, it can't have a 9 in it. Okay, sorry about that. That was a little bit convoluted, but because this 9 is in the egg, it can't be a killer cage of size 8. And so this turns out this has to be a size 7. This is going to move efficiently up here. This 24 is not going to be size 3. It's going to be at least size 4, but it can't be a whole lot larger without making this 20 size egg too small. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 7 already in place. It turns out this is going to be my size 6 egg. The snake is going to have to wind through here. This ends up being my size 8 egg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the rest of this snake is going to close in here. Make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah, the snake is going to continue up here. This 24 is going to be at least 4 cells long. Let me take this away for a moment. I'm getting to my point, which is that the snake is going to turn out to definitely have to take all of these squares. And whether this is snake or egg is going to be unclear. This is part of the 20. I have to do quite a lot of Sudoku and a lot of killer cage logic in order to figure out which one of these 2 eggs is my 4 size egg and which one is my 5 size egg. but a large part of the snake is going to be solved logically in the course of the first phase of the puzzle. I don't want to trivialize it. It is very hard to do, but you're not going to do a whole bunch of Sudoku logic in order to make it work. Okay, so transitioning back to my slideshow. Okay, so that's Dutch Baby. I'm going to skip my next example in the interest of time. This was also featured on the Cracking the Cryptic YouTube channel. Also shortly before the Patreon pack that I made came out. In this case, we're back to circles. The circles that are in this puzzle, the circles that are on egg give you the size of the egg. The circles that are on snake will give you the number of snake cells that can be seen from there, from that vantage point. And I'll explain it by showing you the solution. Again, if you don't want to see the solution, close your eyes. But this puzzle solves like this. The snake is now in orange and the eggs are in green, just to mess with you. But you can see this, for example, this 7 sees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cells. The 8 sees 8 cells. These little green lines are telling you that that the two cells, one of the cells is egg and the other one is snake. And they're telling you that the digits in these two cells are at least 5 apart. So you can verify that. But you can also verify that this is a valid solution of the puzzle without me having told you all the rules. I'm just sort of giving you a little bit of a sense of how I can make a set of rules that work. So in the Patreon pack, I made, I'm going to give you 2 examples of puzzles. In one of them, you have a blank grid and you have 9 tiles, and you have to place the tiles into the grid to form a valid snake egg pattern. And once that's in place, you fill the circles with the sizes of the respective egg that they're in. And there's an extra rule that any place where the snake touches itself at a corner, those 2 cells have to be at least 5 apart in value. So what we in the biz call a German whisper line. And here's the solution to that one. Again, close your eyes, but you'll see that everywhere where the snake meets itself diagonally, the cells are at least the values are at least 5 apart. The given digits in here are transferred into the puzzle. The circle digits are all, they're not in here, but the circle digits are all corresponding to the size of their egg. The size 1 egg has a 1 in it. This has, look at this little square here, and you can see that these circled digits, indeed, the 1 is size 1, the 4 egg is in a size 4 grid, and this 8 is in a size 8 grid, 8 egg. Okay, this puzzle turned out to be purely a snake egg puzzle, and then once you solve the snake egg problem, you solve the Sudoku. And the Sudoku itself has what's called an XYZ wing. In other words, it has a very difficult Sudoku step in it, which is a little bit mean. But the point is, first you do a snake egg and solve it, and then you do a Sudoku. And that is, in my opinion, a slightly flawed way of going about things. All right, I've almost gone an hour and a half, so I'm not going to talk at. Both of these puzzles were from me, yes. The Patreon pack was released in May 2024. I think I can't publish it, but if anybody wants it, just send me a DM and I'll send it to you. I think it was quite successful, but I think that what all of the puzzles in it had in common was basically that you did 90% of the snake drawing, and then you did the last 10%, and then the last 10% of snake drawing depended on the Sudoku, and it was a little bit dissatisfying in that way. I want to go into this puzzle for just a few moments because this I think it's a very successful puzzle, but it is quite nasty if you don't think about first principles. It's called Cleopatra's Nemesis, and as we know, that's a very clever title because Cleopatra, of course, was allegedly killed by poisonous snakes. Whether she killed herself with them or whether they attacked her, I don't remember. But the rules here, I'm going to go through them very quickly, or no, I'm going to go through them very thoroughly, but maybe quickly. The circles, again, we see circles a lot. In here, the circles either represent the size of their respective egg, or they are the head and the tail of the snake. So if they're on a snake, they must be the head and the tail. If they're on an egg, they show you the size of the egg. So the egg size cells are all going to be unique. They're all going to be different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And the head and tail cells, we don't know what numbers are what digits are in them. That's the first thing. Every one of those egg cells, its digit will be known as soon as you know the size of the egg. And then on the edge, these numbers are telling you the sum of the digits along the given diagonal. So this is a 19. The sum of the digits along this diagonal that are on egg. Okay, so the digits on this diagonal that ignore the snake sum to 19. The digits along this diagonal that are not on snake, in other words, the egg cells on this diagonal that are in egg, they sum to 4. In this one, they sum to 11. On this long diagonal, they sum to 5. And it turns out that this is the way to sort of get into the puzzle, because 5 is not a very big number. So let's think about these 3 cells, right? These 3 cells cannot all be egg cells, right? Because if they were egg cells, then the 5 would be counting them, would be adding them up, and they can't all be the same digit. They have to be at least 6. They have to add to at least 6, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So those can't all be egg cells. So at least one of them is the head or tail of a snake. And whichever one it is, it turns out that the other head or tail has to be on one of these 2 cells. And that is because all of the other cells that you see are in a different checkerboard color than the ones on the diagonal. So it turns out that one of these is an egg, one of them is a snake. 2 of them are head and tail, and the third one is an egg. So all of these can now be marked, as egg cells, and they all have to have different digits in them. And the 8th egg cell is going to be one of these 3. Once we know that these 2 eggs have to be separated, these 2 eggs have to be separated, this egg has to continue out in this direction. It can't stop here because, of course, we know where the head and tail are. These 2 snake ends can't connect, because if they connected, then I would have a pretty big egg here with 2 circles in it. That's not permitted. And they can't connect this way either for the same reason. So actually, this has to come this way, and this has to avoid touching, so it comes this way. This becomes an egg cell. This is incidentally also an egg cell. This is a size 2 egg, so the 2 goes in the circle. This has to be a 1. This is the only cell on this diagonal that is an egg cell, so it has to sum to 4, and so it has to be a 4. This can't be snake, so it is egg. This 4-cell egg is this 4-cell egg is either going to be looking like this, or like this, or like this. We don't know how it's going to really work, but we can we can say that because it has the digits 1 through 4 in it, this has to be a 3, because it can't be 1 or 2. And the 2, that it has to have a cell with a 2 in it, it's going to take one of these 2 cells. So the egg can't do this. And since it can't do this, and it can do either this or this is definitely an egg cell. and now the snake has to continue this way. And now we can conclude that of these two cells, they can't both be head and tail, otherwise the snake is finished, right? So one of them is a head, one of them is a tail, therefore this is definitely the head of the snake. And I'm going to say it's not the tail of the snake. There, I said it. Okay. And now a couple of things happen. Imagine that I made this into a square. The snake is going to have to cover that, right? The snake is going to have to go around here. And that in itself is okay, but now these two cells have to be separated, so I have to draw a snake this way, but these two cells can no longer be separated from each other. So long story short, this is a little bit convoluted logic, but I can't make a square here. I have to make an L shape here. And now these two digits, whoops, are a 1 and 2 pair, and the L shape is finished. The snake can't end here, so it's going to continue here. And now it can't barge right through here, obviously, so it's going to continue this way. And because it continues this way, this can't come up this way, so this now becomes an egg cell. This is going to continue over here. This is now the head of the snake. This egg is going to continue growing. This head is going to be surrounded by egg cells. This path is going to have to come out this way. This cell can't possibly be part of an egg. It's going to be part of a snake. Here, let me just use buttons. So this grows a little bit bigger. Whoops, what color am I using? 9. Okay, there. This snake continues growing. This can't continue growing because then you have not only a size 9 egg, but you've got 2 circles in the same egg. So this has to go up and come across. So this is not whatchamacallit. This is egg 9, yeah. And it has to connect to this circle, because if I try to connect it to anywhere else, then I have a lot of pain. I'm not going to be able to connect my snake together. So these all become egg cells. This can't be snake, so it becomes part of an egg. I've got now a size 5 egg. It could get bigger. I've got a size 6 egg here. This must be a 6 because the circles contain their digits. And then what I've got, 2, 4, 6. These are 1, 3, 5. These digits are 1, 3, 5, 7, and 8. Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to stop because the Sudoku ends up being quite difficult. But let's remember that these diagonals here, the diagonal clues, are actually going to do quite a lot of work. Notice that the 19 now sees 3 cells. It might see a 4th cell, but if I make these digits, for example, 1 and 3, and this one here would have to be a maximum of 5. Oh no, I'm not looking at the right angle. Here, that one. Yeah, this can't be bigger than 5, right? Because this egg contains the digits 1 through 6. So these 3 cells together are going to have to add to a fairly large number. I can't make these digits 1 or 3. You don't really need this logic to continue drawing the snake, but I am pointing it out because this constraint ends up being very powerful. What you're going to find is that these are the 7 and 8 size eggs, and these are the 1, 3, and 5. This one can't be a 1 or 3 anymore because it's at least 5, and it's going to be enclosed by snake. The snake's going to continue walking this way. If I try to make this into a 3 size egg in any way, it's going to impinge on the very large 8 egg. So this ends up being the 1. And once I surround that with snake, the puzzle is going to be practically finished. The 8 size egg can take 1 more cell. It ends up taking this one by force because the snake can't take it. And now the size 4 snake the size 4 egg is, the size 8 egg, excuse me, is done. This is a size 3 by force. It takes this cell, and now these two are going to connect. This is now egg. This 3 cell is complete. This has to continue up this way. This size 7 egg is complete. And again, the rest is Sudoku. So, right. Tallcat, I agree. This is more of a balance between Snake and Sudoku. But, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm not going to do the Sudoku part in the interest of time, but I am relying on the Sudoku logic a little bit to just sort of speed things along. But I think in this puzzle, a very large part of the snake logic gets done before you've really done much Sudoku, and that's slightly dissatisfying. I don't mean it's bad, but I'll leave you to do the Sudoku on your own. It can be done from here with the additional constraints. And I'm going to continue. Actually, let me pause and ask if there are any questions. Tallcat, I'm going to talk about the topic of balance in a moment. Okay. Here's the solution to Cleopatra's Nemesis. Sorry you had to see that, but it's just in case people want to see it, I'm putting it into the video. Okay, whatever each puzzle has in common is that the solve path basically consists of 2 phases. First you draw the snake, then you solve the Sudoku. There's not a lot of interdependence between the different constraints, and that has to do with the fact that snake egg patterns are very determinative. Okay, can we make a puzzle where this path of the snake is as dependent on the Sudoku constraints as the Sudoku is dependent on the path of the snake? This is a very broad question. What does it mean to be interdependent? We can explore that a little bit, but I don't want to generalize. This would require, though, and this is the point of my talk here, this would require some aspects of the snake shape to remain open-ended toward the end of the solving process. So what we're looking for are highly similar snakes, pairs of snakes which cover a lot of common cells, but differ in interesting ways. What makes a snake similar is how many cells they have in common. But that's just one way of looking at it. Out of 45 cells, it's certainly possible for them to have all but one in common. For example, these 3 snakes all have 44 cells in common with each other. All that's really happening is that the head and tail are wiggling up and down a little bit. I can call this a wriggler, and the tetromino is becoming first an L shape, then an upside down L shape, and in the middle it's a T shape. But snakes can wriggle in all sorts of ways. Here's a wriggler. Look at the 5 and the 4 size egg. Here they've kind of switched places, and all that's happening is the snake is taking up a slightly different cell. The 5 and the 4 swap positions. And here it's the 1 and the 3 that are swapping positions on one and the same grid. Yeah. In this case, I'm switching 2 cells. 2 egg cells become snake cells, and vice versa. Okay. Here's another example. In this one, look at the size 6 and size 7 egg. They're not next to each other, but I'm going to cause it to wriggle so that the 6 becomes a 7 and the 7 becomes a 6. So, whoops, there we go. And the 8 size egg is going to stay the same size by losing an egg on the left and losing a cell on the left and gaining a cell on the right. I think that's a kind of fun example too. So in order for them to kind of, sorry, I keep switching to the wrong spot. In order for them to wriggle with each other like this, these wrigglers, they don't necessarily, the 2 cells don't necessarily have to be right next to each other. Okay. So in this example, notice that the 2, 6, 8, 5, and 3 cell eggs are going to stay the same, and all that's happening is the top left and the bottom right are going to change. The top left becomes a 7, and the bottom right goes from being a 4 and a 1 to being a 7 and a 1. just let you kind of contemplate that for a moment. And notice what happens, that the size of these the bounding boxes here, the snake bounds these eggs with the same amount of cells, but what used to be a 1 egg and a 4 egg in the bottom right becomes a 1 egg and a 7 egg. They get squeezed in there in a completely different way. I think that's kind of amusing. So I want to present one puzzle right now that I made recently that was published on the Discord server. It hasn't been published on Logic Masters Germany, but I might do that eventually. And in my opinion, it's successful. What makes it successful? It has a rule set that's, I think, easy to keep in mind. It doesn't rely on specialized knowledge of how egg patterns behave, and I think that none of the puzzles I've presented so far really do. But that's an important aspect of this. Like, I don't want people to come in trying to solve a snake egg puzzle, and the first thing they think is, oh, what do I know about snake eggs? And the final Sudoku steps are required in order to resolve the final position of the snake. I think that's kind of nice. This puzzle is called I'm All A-slither. I'm not actually going to go to a link of it, but you can search for that title in the Discord server and eventually on LMD if I do decide to publish it there. The rules are, now you've got these little corner clues again. The rules are that the snake, the 45 cells of the snake break up into 5 9-cell segments. And each of those 9-cell segments has a unique set of digits. The snake also breaks up into 9 5-cell segments, and each of those 5-cell segments contains unique digits. Also, each of those 5-cell segments, has to contain a clue, like a clue cell, and that clue cell is going to indicate the sum of the 5 digits. Okay, so we already know that all of these cells are snake cells, and these two are are the head and the tail, and we have to determine the path of the snake. And we know that every 5 cells of the snake, every 5 cells of the snake, there's going to be at least one clue cell. And from that, we can already determine that these from the top here, these two are definitely going to both be on the path, right? And whether the path goes this way or this way, the two of them are very close to each other. So the subsequent cells, this is going to be impossible because the subsequent cells, there have to be at least 5 more of them before I run into another clue. Okay, so 1, 2, these could be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells in this segment. And then this one has to take at least 4, although this could be part of this 5-cell segment. But I can't come down here because then I've got too many clues in too short a span of snake, if you will. Okay, so the first logic we can do is say these things are all part of the snake. But whether these two, which one of these two is actually on the snake is unclear. And now the next question, the next logical step is to look at the head of the snake, recognize that of these 3 cells, 2 of them have to be egg, and 1 of them is going to be snake. So does the snake go this way, does it come this way, or does it go this way, is the first question. I can eliminate this possibility because I'm going to have to come down here. I can't make a branch. I have to come down here, and then I have to come across like this. And look what has happened. What's the problem? I've got an egg here, and I've got an egg here. Both of them are size 1. So that's not going to work. This remains open-ended. Can I come down? All right. If I do this, I still can connect these two. And now, because I haven't connected here, I can connect this, and that's perfectly valid. All of this is fine. But the problem now becomes this egg, this clue. There's no way for me now to enter in here and grab this clue and come back out without creating a 2x2 path. Okay, so long story short, whoops, I want to keep this. Whoops, don't do that. Hey, I want to keep this part, but the snake is definitely going to have to come in this direction. Okay. Down here, a very similar logic is kind of possible. It's a little bit more difficult to explain, but you can already kind of see when if I go this way, I'm not going to skip this egg. I'm going to have to come to here because if I'm going to have to. I can't skip this clue. Sorry. If I come straight down, I'm never going to reach this clue. So I have to get to it either by this path or by this path or by this path. And I don't know which, but I do know that I'm going to have to eventually reach here. The next one I'm going to have to reach is here, and I'm going to walk up into this corner. And this path is going to have to go relatively efficiently over to here. It can't come up very far. And what turns out is that the path of the snake is going to sort of say, this is my first spot. Whoops. I'm going to number these just for clarity. I'm going to go through here. This is going to be my third one. Fourth coming across here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Whoops. Hey. There. No. 11. That's the path that the snake is going to take, and I'm figuring that out by some logic. The rest of the solve path I want to talk about a little bit because it's going to end up being a slideshow. I apologize, just in the interest of time. Going back to the slideshow, when I draw everything that I know just logically, let me explain what you see here. Orange is now snake, and yellow is egg, and blue are those 5-cell units. And sometimes I've drawn them red in order to distinguish them from another 5-cell unit. This is not easy to read. It's very funky, but I'll just show you that in the top right, this is the way that I'm top left, excuse me, the way that I'm notating this. I'm going to have to take one of these possible paths to get from the circle to the 27 clue, and that finishes that segment of 5. The next segment of 5 is going to come straight across to the 22. It's either going to go straight across and down, or straight down and across, or something in between. And then the 4 to the 22 to the 24 is going to have to move efficiently. The 31 is going to start here. It's going to be forced to start here, and it's going to be forced to end here. So that is the only section of snake that I absolutely know the path it's going to take. And then from the question mark, I'm going to go to the 23 as efficiently as possible. I'm not going to be able to come down and kind of wind around. So the red cells here represent all of the different ways that segment, that 5-cell segment can possibly go. The 23 is basically just like the one coming into the 22. The 33, it's a little confusing to read, but I don't know if I'm coming across here or going down, and I don't know if I'm coming up here or going across here. But I've outlined all of the ways that the snake can move. And look at this egg. This egg is already 6 cells long. And from here on out, I'm just going to do a little slideshow to see how the snake ends up growing. Again, avert your eyes if you want to solve this yourself. But just from first principles, just from what I know, I can start doing this. The egg just above the start of the path is going to be the size 8 egg. I skipped this. Yeah, and the size 7 egg is down. This egg down here can't be size 8 anymore. It's not going to be able to stretch all the way to this point. So whoops. So it's going to coming down here. This 5 I'll explain in a moment, but this amount of the path can already be determined without doing any Sudoku. But that's all you can determine. What I was do a little bit of math before we close. I'm going to run out of time. there's some things I want to get to, but this 5 comes from the fact that, remember that these 9 cells have to have have 9 different values per the rules, and these 5 plus these 5 have to have a total of 30. 26 plus 24 is 30. If these 9 cells add up to 45, and the 2 of them together add up to 60, sorry, not 30, but 60, 50. 24 plus 26 is 50. There we go. 50 minus 45 is 5, so this digit is given. This digit is also given by the same principle. 27 plus 24 is 49, but these first 9 cells add up to 45, so I know by the law of leftovers that this is a 4. So I'm just going to slide through this a little bit more. The logic kind of cuts together here. I have now changed the color of 2 pieces, the 2 segments of the snake, so I can distinguish between them. Now the snake starts out gray, ends up gray, and I'm basically dividing it into 9 cell segments to make it easier to tell what's going on. And here we can do some big math. 26 plus 24 plus 33 plus 23 is 61, right? Yeah, 61. So I know that these 2 digits have to add to 16, and they end up being a 9 and a 7. And these 2 digits, by the law of leftovers up here, end up being a 6 and an 8 because on the one hand, they are the leftovers from these two 9-cell segments and these 4 5-cell segments. These are the leftovers, and they can't be 5 and 9. They have to add to 14. They can't be 5 and 9 because there's already a 9 in this 9-cell grid. It's a little bit funky, but we can the rest. There's quite a lot of Sudoku to do, and a lot of math to do, sort of killer cage math. But when I get to this point, I'm able to actually resolve the last bit of snake here, because this group, by the law of leftovers, I've had a question mark here just to be nasty, but that question mark ends up being a 15, right? Because all of the snakes together add up to a certain amount, and the leftover is 15. So I know that these 5 cells, wherever they may be, are going to be the digits 1 through 5, because that adds up to 15. But I don't know how it resolves until I look at this set of digits in the 22 cage, and by math, that ends up being a collection 1, 2, 6, 4, and 9. 1, 2, 4, 6, and 9. And the 2 is going to look across and make a 2 impossible over here. I'm going backwards. There. The 9 is going to end up in this square, and the 1, 2, and 6 are going to look across, forcing the 2 into these 2 cells. So if these 2 cells are 2s, they both if these 2 cells are 2 and 5, they both have to be on the snake because they're part of this 15, and that then ends up letting me finally resolve the egg and the snake at this together. Otherwise, you can see in this position, I could have a 6 size egg here and a 5 size egg here, or a 5 size egg here, the straight across, and a 6 size egg here. So that the snake egg pattern is not going to resolve my situation. Okay, unfortunately, there's no more time. I want to leave time for questions, but if you guys want, yeah, Dream Librarian, I don't mean when I describe the rules to you, you're going to internalize them instantly. All I'm saying is that when you read them, yeah, fair enough. When you read them, they're not hard to forget. Once you've started dealing with the snake, I don't expect you to have memorized them just based on how quickly I said them. Okay, so I'm going to skip through this very quickly. Here's that first wriggling example again. You can really think of these 3 snakes as being part of a loop, right? And in that loop, depending on which of the gray cells I cut off, I have 3 different grids. Look at this loop. In this loop, I have a 1, 2, 3 4, 5, and 8 size egg, and 2 6 size eggs. So that's flawed in many ways, but I can cut out 6 different spots to make a valid snake egg, and one of the 6s becomes a 7, and the other one stays a 6, depending on which of those gray cells get omitted from the snake to become an egg cell. Here's another loop, and this one is nice because I think might be the world record holder in terms of cutting loops into snakes. There are 15 ways to cut this into a valid snake. You can see these little numbers. They tell you the size of the egg that they're in, and if it's 2 numbers, that's a spot where the egg is ambiguous. Okay, let's rush through the rest of this. Here's another slightly more complex loop example. Here, what's left ambiguous is the 3 and the 7. So many highly similar snakes can be described are neither the wrigglers, as we showed earlier, and they're not loop cuts. But in order to show them, I have to kind of explain how to visualize them. Here's a snake that is very different from this snake. I want to see them at a glance, snake 1 and snake 2. Here, snake 1 is in blue and snake 2 is in red, or maybe vice versa. And you can see at a glance how many of the cells on the 2 of them have in common. So here's a gallery of highly similar snakes that are neither loop cuts nor wrigglers. You can look at these on your own when you see the video later, but they're kind of nice. I'm not going to spend much time on them except to say this is how I've been kind of looking at these as I go through them. Here's one where very few of the egg sizes are preserved. The 1, 3, 7, 2, and 8 are preserved, and the 4, 5, and 6 switch places. But all that's really happening is the snake is extending by 1 unit at the bottom, and it's changing direction at the top. So those are fun. This one is fun. I can't really go into it now. Look at the L-shape pentomino. It either bends to the left or it bends to the right, and otherwise everything else that tries to accommodate it looks fairly similar, right? The 6, 2, 7, and 3 stay the same. The 5 is the one that I kind of swaps. The blue cuts in. The blue snake cuts in on the left. The red snake cuts in on the right. And otherwise they're very similar. Otherwise they're fairly similar. This is my favorite example, and this is one I'm going to end on, unfortunately. Here, these 2 snakes are very similar. Just wriggle between them for a moment. But the egg sizes, even though I swap very little, none of the egg sizes are actually preserved. All of the egg sizes change. And here you can see how which egg cells are actually changed at a glance. The 4 green eggs, the green cells belong to one snake, and the orange cells belong to the other snake. Okay, so I'm going to skip the highly dissimilar snakes but that's a really interesting topic, and I'm going to end with this feature here and explain what this is. This is 2 snakes. The one snake is white, just the white cells, and the other snake is sort of gray on black. And you notice what happened here. These two snakes are as dissimilar as they can be. In fact, so here you see the gray snake. Oh no, not this one. This one has the gray snake is eating the eggs of the white snake, except for 2 cells. Yeah. And then this is the real world record holder. It's slightly different. Oh, no, this is not it. This is the white snake can be covered by 2 different highly dissimilar snakes. But the world record holder is this one. This is a snake. The white snake and the gray snake are as complementary as they can be. Notice that there's one egg cell of the white snake that isn't being eaten by the gray snake. So these are highly dissimilar. And now I'm out of time, but I am going to stick around if people have questions. I have to skip a bunch of stuff here, including the symmetry topic. If there aren't any questions, I'll just go over it for those of you who can stick around. Or do we have any questions, or did I thoroughly answer everything? Cool. All right, those of you who have to go, you've not missed the essence of it, but those of you who want to hang around, do have a general approach for setting these. Okay. Yeah, this talk was really more of a appreciation of snake egg patterns rather than a guide to setting them. But definitely, there are so many ways to be inspired by snake eggs, and I think this particular pattern, for example, the fact that these two snakes are totally complementary, doesn't lend itself to creating a really digestible rule set, right? But I do like to think about these and think about some elegant way of showcasing this phenomenon as a puzzle. I haven't done that yet, but I do open it up to the floor. If people want to think of ways to do it. I just think this particular configuration is really nifty, and it is. I did an exhaustive search of 133,000 snake egg patterns. These are the only two snakes that are maximal complementary like this. I don't know how to turn that into a puzzle, but I kind of do leave that up to you. The guidelines that I would have is, one, you should not know a lot of, your solver should not know a ton of snake egg theory. They should just be able to solve the puzzle by keeping in mind that you need eggs of a certain size. I think they have to have some familiarity with how snakes behave, and they have to have, they have to enjoy this kind of thing, I suppose. But a good digestible rule set, in spite of Dream Librarian's opinion about I'm All A-slither, a good digestible rule set, it's never going to be just 7 words, because every time you create a snake egg Sudoku, you have to explain snake egg rules. That's going to be prohibitive for most people, just honestly. But I would love to see more puzzles that use this constraint. Okay. Questions? More questions? Otherwise, I will finish by talking about a couple of really short other ideas. You can have constraints on the path of the snake. Imagine a snake where you can't have more than 4 snake cells in a row, or one that has no more than 2 turns in a row. Here's one that has no more than 4 cells in a row. 582 snakes have this property. Here's one with no more than 2 turns in a row. 432 snakes have this property. But there are some snakes that have both properties, such as this one. There are no more than 4 cells in a row, and there are no more than 2 turns in a row. And there are only 10 snakes that do this. I think that's kind of neat. And then the last topic is about symmetry. This is a highly similar snake. This is a world record holder, although there are several that hold this record. Notice that the purple snake and the blue snake are vertically reflective of each other, but they have almost all their cells in common except for 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 1 in box 7, 1 in box 9, and 2 in box 3 of the blue cell. The blue snake are not covered by the purple snake. These are diagonally reflective. That is to say, if you map the purple snake across the rising diagonal, you get the blue snake with a few exceptions. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cells difference. I might be 8 cells difference. They're very close to each other, and this is as close as you can get, really. Here is rotational symmetry. If you were to take this snake's pattern and coil it around, it would map onto itself with 1, 2, 3, 4 exceptions. So this is as close as you can get. For those of nerds, this is orthogonally reflective. In other words, vertically reflective anti-symmetry. This is a snake that when you map it, when you flip it over, it maps onto mostly egg cells. if you flip this across the diagonal, it maps onto mostly egg cells, so diagonal anti-symmetry, and rotational anti-symmetry. These two, this egg, the blue snake, if I rotate it 180 degrees, you get the purple snake. And the purple snake eats up almost all of the eggs of the blue snake. Okay, nerds? Okay, Sudoku fan. The solver shouldn't need to know snake egg theory. What are some examples of theory that is useful for solving? Well, I mean, a very simple thing is once you create, every time you, what am I trying to say? Well, the main one, I guess, is that the head and the tail of the snake have to be on the same color, right? If you want to avoid that, the easiest thing to do is to provide the solver with the position of the head and the tail. But there are all sorts of aspects of the snake that you can divulge, right? We had an example where I divulged some the position of some egg cells. One where I divulged some positions of snake cells. There are ones where you can divulge where the snake touches itself diagonally, and you can. I'm not really answering your question, Sudoku fan. I am just as kind of clumsy about snake egg theory per se as the next person. There might be some arcane theory that I'm not familiar with. It might cause a great aha moment for me. But certainly it helps, for example, to kind of think about what happens when a snake egg pattern wriggles, right? When I can see what happens when I just, instead of going across here and down, I go down and across. I'm going to actually break it because these two cells are adjacent to each other. But sort of, if you can even call it snake egg theory, being able to see that at a glance, that's really more snake logic than snake egg logic. I guess I'm basically demonstrating to you, Sudoku fan, that when I'm thinking about these puzzles, I'm not saying that they're easy, but I do think that they're fairly easy to digest, like digesting the rule set. What's hard is taking that digested rule set and saying, well, what do I need to do first as a solver? And I accept that that's difficult. But if somebody makes, I was going to say, I challenge somebody to make an easily digestible and not very difficult snake egg puzzle that isn't trivial. One idea I had was to make a classic Sudoku. Just a classic. And the only other constraint is you have to draw a snake egg in the grid where it breaks up into 5 sets of 9 cells, where every one of those 9 cells has no repeat digits. That is possible to do. I did create such a puzzle, but it doesn't end very nicely, and I will eventually publish something that's fun. But the rule set is very easy to understand. It's classic Sudoku, and you have to draw a snake egg in the grid, and the snake has to divide into 9 cell units that don't repeat. It's basically 5 extra regions. So all of those types of puzzle constraints are ones that people are familiar with. Okay, now this whole time I was never looking at how many people are actually watching, which is fine with me. But if anybody's still around and you want to discuss further, I'm actually not leaving, but I can give you another 5 minutes if there are more questions. Not even sure anybody's still around. I'll just wait another minute or so if anybody wants to type a question. Otherwise, I'm done here. Sorry about my timing. There was a lot to get through. All right, I'll spend some time on the thanks for watching slide where you can see what's happening next. Whoops. Yeah. Thank you for watching.